Welcome to another edition where I give feedback to a parent who completes the quick assessment on our website at theeducationgame.com. This is one I'm going to be a little shorter on because there's a couple key points I want to bring up here. First, this parent has children on the younger end of the spectrum. She homeschools and does some online instruction. I think that's really great. As you may have heard me talk about before, it gives a lot more flexibility, a lot more opportunity to be individually attentive to a child and to provide things that they have interest in. But I'm going to pass up some of this stuff because, frankly, she's doing well and she's answering the questions how I would generally want people to answer. Most people don't have an on paper on purpose plan for learning. That's a big problem, I think, particularly for homeschoolers who really need to be clear about where they're heading. That can be done with the child. In fact, ideally, it should be done with the child where you're both co-creating that learning pathway or learning pathways. But here's the part I wanted to focus on. So her chief concern, I'll read it for you. My 9-year-old son often says math is boring or the homeschool lesson is boring and that I should make it more interesting. We have been moving quite a bit since September 2021, and I am having difficulty finding time and resources to encourage my son to thrive. How do I make maths and his other lessons less boring? He is a self-learner and quickly learns by himself. Most mistakes are by inattention, not focusing rather than not knowing the subject matter. He also finds it hard to memorize multiplication table, but quickly calculates addition and subtraction of 2 or 3 fingers mentally. All right, so what I'd like to do is focus here on the area where you say math is boring, or your son says math is boring. There's really 2 paths that you can follow on how you deal with this. The first one is that you push on the child and you say, life is hard sometimes, son, and you have to do things that you don't want to do sometimes. That's a pathway, and that's frankly the pathway I took with my son. He turned out to be very, very good at math, but I'll tell you, the chances of him continuing in math, he's now 20, seem pretty remote. So all that pressure got him good scores, but really nothing else. Didn't seem to create a love of math, and he really, I don't think, has connected the idea that math is everywhere. So strategy 1 is really pushing on the child. Strategy 2 is, which is the one, if I could go back, I would do, which is making it clear to him that math is everywhere, but not by just telling him, but by walking through the world, seeing the different examples of math everywhere. So to me, that one of the biggest opportunities here is to start with the child's area of interests. So going back up the assessment, you indicated that your child is interested in social issues, science and tech, wonderment and faith, finance. So, child's not interested in math, let's go ahead and start a business. If you start a business, he will be interested in math because you cannot run a business without understanding how math works. Likewise, the science and tech issues. You can't really spend any time in science if you're authentically learning it without stumbling upon math. It's everywhere. So what I would encourage you to think about is how do you make the content engaging, or how do you find out his areas of interest and then use that to drive the learning rather than pushing the math content? Because eventually he will learn, if he gets excited about science, he is going to be motivated to learn math. He's going to learn it 1,000 times faster if he has decided that that is something that he wants to do. This is kind of the big tension point within education. How much is adult driven? How much is learner driven? My argument is we got to keep deferring to the learner driven because the adults, we've all been indoctrinated in the idea that we know what's best. We know what this child should learn. We know that they should do math. We don't. We know that right now he's interested in science and tech and wonderment and faith and finance and business. So let's start there and let's start building a learning plan and a learning pathway based on these areas. And I can promise you math will start to show up. And he's 9. If he gets to 12 and he's really interested in science, you don't have to worry about him. He's going to catch up. He's going to excel in math, not because it is something that he was told to do, but because he sees it as an essential tool for him to achieve his interests in science. Does that make sense? Hard thing to figure out exactly where on that kind of range to fall. But, I've seen the tiger mom. I was a tiger mom. I was a tiger mom for a number of years and beat on my kids to do and drill. but it really doesn't work long term in my view, and most of the families I work with will say the same. I would encourage you to err on the side of starting here. What is my child interested in? Building a learning plan around those things. When you get to math, he will start to see the connection points. Then you're off to the races. So hope that helps. Definitely feel free to send me a note. And if you want to talk further, happy to do that offline. So I hope this was helpful. And thanks for completing the assessment on our website at theeducationgame.com. More to come. I'm Matt Barnes.